And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We have Chris, the old guy, once again. Guys, just as a reminder, to make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. If you are going to a game this season, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up all the pucks in play. And if you are one of the very few people that waited for whistle, against Utah last Friday. Thank you very much. And to anybody who did get up and heard a girl yelling at them, it was probably me. Please wait for the whistle. The beer will still be there. The bathrooms will still be there. And the bad food will still be there. If you want good food before going to a game this season or next year, highly recommend Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco over on Ogden. Great food. It's lovely. Only a couple of blocks away. Highly recommend it. Let's get into it. Krusty, we got a lot of things because the trade deadline happened.
We have a lot of things?
What kind of things? A lot of things.
You've got all the inside gossip.
I have no gossip. Guys, trade deadline happened. Some Blackhawks made a couple of trades, 2. To be specific, Blackhawks acquired Joe Veleno from the Detroit Red Wings for Peter Mrazek as well as Craig Smith. And then we made a very last-minute trade with the Utah Hockey Club. I'm going to be very, very honest. I forgot what we got rid of. I think it was just a 6th rounder for the rest of Shea Weber's contract so we can hit the salary cap floor. Akurati, and then Victor Soderstrom, I believe, who was a 11th pick about 5 years ago, I believe.
2019, if I'm not mistaken.
So 6 years ago. We're bad with numbers on this show. It's fine. But there were...
I'm not bad with numbers. I know all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got them. I went to private school, you know.
So, and everybody was kind of expecting for Ryan Donato to be traded. He was not. I'm a big fan of that. The true captain of the Chicago Blackhawks stays on the roster.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. Either I was at the gym or someplace, and you keep on refreshing that whatever feed it is, and yeah, he was going, he wasn't going, he was staying. They were working on an extension. And then all of a sudden, nothing happened, and he's just playing with us.
I will say I am very excited that he stayed. Granted, if they got a first-round pick for him, I wasn't going to be mad about that either. But I do like that he stays. However, I do wish for Kyle Davidson to re-sign him since he stayed, because right now I'm just getting Dylan Strome flashbacks in the back of my brain, and I'm really hoping that we just didn't keep him for him to walk.
Yeah, unsure. Okay, we can go over what I have heard, and I've got a lot of insider information from all the different voices that are inside my head. Basically, from what Kyle stated, is he didn't get a first or second. That's if you believe Kyle. So that means it was at least a 3rd round pick for him. You might as well end up keeping him. Also, if you're Ryan Donato, I'm hearing the offer on the table is 3 years at $4 million. I would assume you can do better through free agency. So he's what, 28? This is probably your last big one, or the last one where you can get some term. I would definitely give him the 4th year. I would bump him up a little bit more money. It means nothing to us. So that tells me that this is just a little bit of a game by Kyle, and he really doesn't want him here anyways. So again, whatever. We haven't had a lot of people around here showing these people the right way to play to begin with. So, if next year's another wasted year, next year's another wasted year. I don't think Kyle cares.
I don't think Kyle really cares about much.
So we'll see what happens with that. From my perspective, I get to watch him play the rest of the year, and that's a huge win for me. He plays the right way. He gives a shit. He's into it. He took one hell of a cross check from McKinnon last night too, and no call was made. But besides that, the Weber deal, I understand they're going to be a struggle to get to the cap floor. I believe the light bulbs have started to go on that this player or these players that you thought you would be able to come get and help your ball club get to the next step, nobody wants to come to a last place team. And I think Kyle has realized that. So I don't know who he's getting next summer either. Because, if you're 28 years old and you want a title and you want to get paid, I don't see how you can come here.
Right.
It's not guaranteed for 3 or 4 years. And then it's still, you're so far away. So, you could offer Mitch Marner the moon, but do you really want to come here? I would say no.
That's one thing with even Marner, with my rumors that I get on the internet, is that there was a spot or trade in place for him to go to Carolina, and he shot it down.
Yeah, heard the same thing for Rantanen, and I'm sure that makes Mitch unhappy, but he seems like a cool cat. He just goes about his business. So I don't see, everything that I've heard, he likes playing in Toronto. I've also, he's going to get paid. There is no doubt about that. He is going to get paid. I can't imagine that he wants to get paid by a last place team. You've got a shit ton of teams in between there that you can go and get that money from. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, I did hear that one too, and I'm sure that made Marner just unhappy. But what are you going to do? And then I guess you can break to your fans the Rantanen drama, which was just over the top and then came fast and furious once it was all done.
It was so kooky crazy. So, friends, remember back at the end of January, Mikko Rantanen was traded from the Colorado Avalanche to the Carolina Hurricanes. And there was rumor that he was going to be flipped again because he really hasn't been performing in Carolina. And so, but there was and then he got traded to Dallas Stars in exchange for Stankoven and a slew of draft picks, which I think Stankoven's a great addition for the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm a big fan of the Stank. But then there was drama. Mikko Rantanen talked to some Finnish reporter, and this could be a total botched translation, I do recognize, but I think the feeling and intent are still perhaps correct, especially with how dramatic the trade was for him to come to Carolina, his lack of performance in Carolina when he was here. And essentially he went to Carolina and said, there's 5 teams that I'll play for, and you're not one of them.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit in our pregame warm-up, which was a whole minute. I don't know quite how you tell Rod the Bod that listen, I don't want to be here. I'm sure Rod took that awfully well, so I'm sure that had something to do with his play. That's something you want underneath your wrap, so you're able to get as much as you can. It definitely does not give him a good look. But again, what does he care? You're getting $12 million a year, which was basically what Colorado offered him. So that whole scenario is weird. Also, you give Carolina the excuse again of us against the world. Nobody wants to be here, but we want to be here kind of mentality that I guarantee that team will be running with. And as you know, as we talked about right when this deal went down, the Stank, that's a Carolina Hurricane player. I mean, when you look up at the guys, Martin Hook, all these other guys that Rod the Bot is able to get performance from, I mean, that's his player. That's his kind of player. Hounding on both ends of the ice and can finish. So they got him. They got 2 more first-round draft picks. Again, if Dallas craps out early, they might be okay. It came down. I mean, they wanted Nashus gone, as we had talked about before. I don't know exactly why, but that'll be the big looking parts of how Nashus does in the playoffs, because everybody knows he can play fine during the regular season. But when things get a little nastier, how's he going to perform? Again, you know, playing with Nathan McKinnon makes everything easier. And he already had it pretty easy in Carolina playing without. So, weird. You don't see that happen too much. I will say this, you know, the Canes, they go after people. They have their eye on somebody and they go after them and they'll sort it out later. So,
speaking of things that you don't see often, the other big surprise that came at the end of the trade deadline was the Rat has traveled down to South Florida. As Sam Bennett posted on his Instagram earlier today, a picture of them with the caption, couple of scumbags. Yes, guys, I am so grateful that the Chicago Blackhawks have already played Florida, because I do not want poor Connor Bedard or Jason Dickinson facing against Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett, and Brad Marchand as a line, because that terrifies me. My heart goes out to all Bruins fans. I don't know what Sweeney's doing with your roster. I'd be a little concerned. I don't know if this is a complete scorched earth thing or what is happening in Boston.
At the end of the day, I like the move. You're probably not going to make the playoffs. If you make the playoffs, you're out in the first round. Why not get picks? You're better off getting picks. So
I do get that. And if it was like Frederick and Carlo and like a couple of the other ones, I think I understand that. Because you see Washington did that a couple of years ago and ended up with Ryan Leonard. But I feel like trading Marchand sends a bigger signal that maybe it's not just a 1 year missing the playoffs.
Unsure. You know, they still have Pasta. They still have some talented players. And now you do have Casey Middlestat there, who is a second line center. Getting a bum rap for whatever reason that he can't play second line center. But still Colorado wanted to take the flyer on him. So I don't think they're going for a rebuild. I think they just decided we're not making any noise this year. Sell off some pieces. I don't think they would have a problem dropping to like 10th worst in the league and getting a very good pick this year with their own pick. And then reload a little bit more. I mean, Marchand is 36.
Right.
And he's starting to break down relatively often. It's time to move on. At the end of the day, it is.
I definitely agree that it is time to move on. I think it just sending Brad Marchand sends more of a message in terms of like there is going to be a significant shift in that locker room. I know Pasta is still there. However, Bergeron, he's the last of the
Yeah.
older group. You have a player who probably thought that he was going to retire a Bruin. I mean, he had been with the Bruins for 20 plus years. And I do have a little bit of drama with the Marchand. Rumor is that they were debating back and forth. They couldn't settle. They were working on an extension.
Yes.
2 versus 3. Brad wanted 3. They wanted 2. They got to the money aspect, not the year aspect. And Brad was like, let's have a face-to-face meeting. Like, I want to work this out. I'm willing to compromise. I want to stay. And Sweeney said, no, you're going to Florida.
I don't have a big problem with it. You've got other players there. I don't think the drop in leadership will be all that much from Brad Marchand to Pasternak. Now, the drop in leadership from the 2 centermen who left them, yes, to Marchand, that was a huge drop in leadership. I mean, Bergeron's a Jonathan Taves almost clone. He's that kind of leader that gets teams sometimes an extra round just because of what they are. They're a man who can take men places that men don't think they can go. Marchand's not that guy. Pasta's not. There's not a lot of them, so they've already had their drop off with that. I think they found a good way to cut ties and attempt to still be competitive. Reload a little bit and then go after it again. So, and I've heard Sweeney is an ass, especially come negotiation time. I heard he's one of he toes the line. He doesn't take a lot of shit, and he's not going to do anything just because, I feel this way. So, again, it's a little weird. I don't see Boston making the playoffs, so we won't be able to get like a Boston-Florida series. Does it make Florida better? Well, sure. I mean, Marchand's a kind of a playoff player. But, again, I start to worry about Florida, though, too.
Because speaking of Florida, Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games for not passing a drug test. Because in the NHL, you can gamble and you'll get suspended for half of the year, but you use drugs and you get a lesser penalty. That sounds totally right, Gary Bettman. Which I think this is just a perfect time for Seth Jones to be in Florida because it just gives him more ice time.
Well, yeah, I'm off talking about Seth Jones. It seems like everybody else still wants to talk about Seth Jones.
Yeah, I only want to talk about Seth Jones when it comes to Florida.
We'll probably talk about that a little later on in this show to begin with.
Oh.
But Ekblad's been through a lot of physical stuff. So I'm sure there was something that he thought was okay, and obviously it wasn't. Again, that's on the player. They have enough people watching stuff. And
you've been in the league long enough.
Right, but as far as that, there's so much new stuff that comes out, and if you're told by the wrong person, no, this is okay, and you decide to throw down on it, and then all of a sudden it isn't, or if it's mixed with something else, it's just, yes, he still bears all the responsibility. But I'm saying I'm sure he was trying to find any way possible to stay with it because of the physical abuse he's been in the last 2 years.
Yeah. The last couple of things in the NHL world. It is Tuesday before Washington's game against Anaheim, but Alexander Ovechkin is at the number 9 mark for goals that he needs, so I'm real hoping that he can do that before we face him in a couple of weeks. Very exciting to watch, very exciting to see. And second piece of information, Connor Ingram has entered the Players Assistant Program for a undisclosed period of time, he did make a social media post that he did lose his mom to cancer, I believe. I'm unsure of the specifics on it. He came back to play and he recognized that he just wasn't in the right headspace mentally while he was grieving the loss, and he's decided to go back into the players assistant program, so he will be stepping away from the Utah Hockey Club for a period of time. We wish him well in this grieving process and figuring out what he needs to figure out.
Yeah, and again, he's not the first goaltender to do this, and it's just at the end of the day, it's unlike any other position in any other sport. The amount of concentration you need and the mindset and everything is frigging off the charts. And as I said, he's not the first goaltender to realize, I'm not good here. I'm not going to be any good on the ice for you. Let me try to. So again, I'll hope everything works out okay with him. Take care of yourself first. That's the way it is.
Absolutely. Chris, you got anything else in the NHL world?
There was nothing else that happened? No other big trades? No? Okay.
Not that I know. Oh, we do have one little thing that we really have rarely talked about. We've talked about it occasionally. Guys, Jonathan Toews is back on the ice. Our true captain is back on the ice. He was skating with Carcillo's kids. I don't know where. I was just happy to see the picture of Johnny on skates.
Well, I read the article. It was a Laz article.
Excellent. That's how you know it's a good article.
Right. And, Laz has a good rapport with all of, the Cup people for the most part. And so basically he's in Arizona. He's been traveling for a while. He did surfing in Costa Rica for a while. Me having a friend who at the age of 60 has taken up surfing, he told me the same thing that basically Toews kind of said, well, it's not really surfing. It's you're paddling like crazy to maybe like try to get up on a board. And that's about it. But he said by the end, he was getting okay at it. He talked about, of course, the first thing you're going to hear if you hear Toews' comeback is coming back here. And he basically stated that ship had sailed. He had a great talk with Parchman, who was the equipment manager for the Hawks. He basically called him and said, listen, I'm unsure what I'm going to do, but I'm thinking and I need my stuff. And Parchman said, sorry, I gave it to charity. And he said, like fucking hell you did. And of course, Parchman laughed. And that was that. His bag was hidden someplace at Fifth Third Arena and was gotten to him. So he was then able to, he's been in Arizona for a little bit doing that. I am trying to get back to my screen for a second. I've got some crazy stuff running.
That's okay.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you, kind of. But yeah, the ship has sailed. Johnny's not coming back. Everybody can thank our GM Kyle for that. Would really like to see him in Winnipeg, but that's just because selfishly, out of the Central, aside from Chicago, I like the Winnipeg Jets. He's not coming back here. Somebody posted something that it would be funny to see him in Detroit and get a reunion of Kane and DeBrincat and Jonathan Toews and Archie and PK the third yelling for Uncle Toews. I would cry at that, and I would like that. And also, that would just show me how much he hates Kyle if he ended up in Detroit. So I'm all for that, too.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. Detroit still hasn't been able to get their shit together. So I think he would want to be on somebody who who has good aspirations for a cup.
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg's the place everybody's talking about. That's definitely one of them.
I'd love to see him in Winnipeg.
He's also a Sakic fan, so Colorado. There'll be opportunities. Basically, he said he's all in and going to give this a go. So I just really hope that he's able to play one more year and he can then walk away on his own terms whenever he decides to. He is not that old. He won't be the first person who stepped away from the game for 2 years.
No, I'm pretty sure Yager made like a career out of it.
Well, Sid did the same thing. Sid went away for 2 years with his concussion stuff. But again, 2 years at this age, he says he feels good. Fingers crossed.
But I feel like 2 years at this age is better than like him continually forcing himself, like past when he stopped, then taking a break and then trying to come back later.
Yes. I've mentioned this to you. We went to a couple, just the pregame skates. And even then, he was like bright red. You could tell something was off, and that's just the mild skating in his last year. So that last year must have been very difficult. So, again, I'm really hopeful that he goes out on his own terms now. I don't care what jersey it is, love to see him back one more time for another goodbye. That works for me, man.
As long as it's not yellow and as long as it's not blue, I'm here for it. And, all right, now do you have anything else in the NHL world?
I don't think so.
All right.
I'll try to come up with a couple and speed bump you if I can.
All right, jumping into our prospect report with University of North Dakota, Sasha Boisvert, you have 2 goals and 1 assist. Adam Guyon was in net for University of Minnesota Duluth this weekend, had 1 win and 1 loss. 1 assist for Dominic James out of University of Minnesota Duluth. You've got 1 goal and 3 assists from Sam Renzel, and then 1 goal and 1 assist for Oliver Moore. Minnesota, I believe, has been knocked out of the Big Ten tourney by your Fighting Irish. You have 2 assists from Aiden Thompson from University of Denver, 3 assists and 1 goal for the Blackhawks' new fascination that is Ryan Green, as they were posting on social media today. 1 assist for Tage Harding out of Providence College, 1 assist from Connor Kelly out of Providence College, 2 goals and 1 assist for Jack Pridham out of Kitchener Rangers, 2 goals for AJ Spellacy from the Windsor Spitfires, 1 goal and 3 assists from Martin Misiak out of Erie Otters. And wrapping up with the Brantford Bulldogs, you've got 2 goals and 4 assists for Merrick Vaneker. And for Mr. 70, you have 4 goals and 1 assist from the Lardass.
Yeah, he's just something.
He's amazing.
I want to go back because Renzel had an incredible quote after they lost to Notre Dame.
Oh, it's hockey shit happens.
Yes, which has just kind of taken off to being quite a little viral talk. Yep. And again, I will flat out state that's why Crusty Old Guy loves hockey. Because, yes, at times shit just happens, and a team you're not even supposed to come close to hockey's a weird game, and then there's momentum, and all of a sudden you get steamrolled by a team you didn't think so. But again, you will be in the regular tournament. So,
well, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert about Notre Dame hockey, but I've seen them twice, so I've seen enough to form an opinion. They have the ability to surprise. Those kids are. I don't want to say that ND definitely doesn't have the strongest roster compared to other teams on the Big Ten. However, those kids have the ability to pull out a win against teams that are a bit more stacked.
Yeah, and it's a game that the Irish want a lot more than you. If the Irish win the tourney, they're in for the Frozen Tournament. So Right now, I don't believe they make it on their record and their ranking. So it's a very important game for them. So, but yeah, I got a kick off also out of Sam's little comment, and we'll see where all that leads to if the U ends up getting bounced early. We'll see what happens with Sam.
Bring him up here. Bring him up here. Run my power play.
You got your power play guy. He showed up last night.
Yeah, I'm still a little concerned about that, but we'll get into that in a minute. We've got Rockford. 2 wins this weekend, 1-4-0 with another Drew Comesso shutout, and then we won 4-2 for the second game. Christy, we really haven't talked about, Spencer Knight's in, Mrazek's out. Spencer's a lot younger. He's only a year older than Comesso right now. What does Spencer Knight mean to the Drew Comesso, Adam Guyon goaltending pipeline situation?
What Spencer Knight means is both of them get to take their time. And for Blackhawk fans, the person, the player that we all come back to thinking about then is Corey Crawford, who took his time. Spent a lot of years in Rockford. I think even before Rockford, whatever the place they were before. That's basically what that means. It doesn't mean we're done with Drew. Drew's just going to marinate down in the A a little bit longer. What it means for Drew is what happens with Bloom. Bloom has played really good this year. He's an RFA, so you've got to pony up and sign him also. So I would assume he at least gets 2 years. So I believe Drew is marinating for 2 more years. And then everything gets weird because Spencer Knight is already making 4.5. That means the next contract, you're talking at least 7. Yeah. And long term for a goaltender, is that again, as I am preaching to everyone, you don't need to be worried about the salary cap right now, okay?
No, but still
Let's try
spending
not to be the bottom 10.
Like $7 million on a goaltender still, it doesn't sound appealing.
It's not appealing, but I've liked what I've seen. That's for sure. Again, it's, we've talked about this before. There's just so many steps now. You're at the bottom of the barrel. And, we hope to gosh that we're playing meaningful games in December next year, but we don't know. And if you're not, it's hard to gauge anyone because it's just, you get it's a different feel from another team when they come in there not respecting it, which has happened for 2 years here. So, but basically what it means, getting back to your question, what it means for Drew is there's no pressure on him. He doesn't have to be the savior. We already traded for our savior. I know there's only one savior, but ask around, there might be a lot of saviors.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely agree. It gives Drew time. It gives Guyon time. I know a lot of people have been fans and reporters have been fairly overcritical that Guyon's freshman year has been less than ideal so far. He's a freshman goaltender. And I'd like to put Guyon in a similar, not directly similar, because I believe he was with the USHL a little bit longer than Arty was, but he's still in that Arty sort of boat where every year he's jumping to a different league. He hasn't been coached consistently with a lot of discipline at a decent amount of consistency, similar to Arty. He's going to take more time.
Right, and we had talked about Guyon already that they were going to do the slow roll. You're still looking at 2 more years in college before he even goes to Rockford. And then it's at least 2 more years in Rockford. So you're already looking in 4 more years, then we'll talk and we'll see what he's like. And then people say, well, we need to draft another goaltender. Okay. You can't have too many of them. You should be doing it once a draft or darn every other draft. They're a funky group. Some get it, some get to different levels and they don't, some get to different levels and they do. It's a tough one to figure out. There's not a lot of sure things.
I think you don't even have to draft, gosh, granted, this takes up a spot compared to drafting, but there's unlimited amount of college goaltenders that are undrafted.
Well, right, but you want to get ahead of it. This way, Guyon's your property. He doesn't count against your 50-man roster because he's not signed yet.
No, I mean in say you need a sort of filler.
Right. Right. But ideally, you're hoping with this kind of a rebuild that your filler days are over and you should be able to supplement your pipeline well for a while.
Right.
So that's, one of the other promises that I got, along with a lot of promises.
Yeah. So 2 wins. Good stuff. Solid game, both games for the Ice Hogs. Even though there are way too many old guys on that roster now. I don't know why Nolan Allen is still down there, which leads us into another defenseman getting called up instead of Nolan Allen. Guys, Arty the Party is a Chicago Blackhawk. Made his Chicago Blackhawk debut on Monday. I was not able to watch it because I'm poor. But I was told by Krusty that he didn't do that bad of a job. And so I just have a question for all the Arty haters. Where's Ivan Demidov right now?
Wow.
Not in the NHL.
That'll be decided in about 4 years. You'll be able to probably figure that one out.
I'm just saying my number 2 draft pick played his first game against Nathan McKinnon and didn't completely embarrass himself.
He did not. As I tell everybody, it's one game, blah, blah, blah. But Krusty got excited. I'm not going to lie. I got excited. What I had stated, what you had told me back when he was he's got a calmness that is just incredible. And that calmness was still relative last night.
Yeah.
A bad pinch. Yes, he had a bad pinch. Yeah, he had a bad pass once. For anybody, I don't care who the defenseman is, they pinch bad occasionally and they have bad passes. It's the way it is. It's all part of the position. I thought he looked really good. The Pickle struggled on power play 1. I would assume Thursday night that Arty is on power play 1. I have a good feeling that that's it. He's here. I think they're okay with him just being here. He doesn't look out of place. He's going to take his lumps, but he's a thick guy. So I really enjoyed his game.
He's also the biggest goofball. I was telling people, when he got drafted, the kid looks like a combination between a 16-year-old and a 40-year-old man. But then you listen to him talk, and I'm like, I'm ready to run through a brick wall for this kid.
Well, yeah, and did I want Demidov? As I stated to you, a tiny bit more than Arty, but I said, as I told you, I have no problems with Arty. I have no problems with them drafting him, and that's the route they want. But Kyle has been methodical about what he wants, especially from almost like a dressing room standpoint. And like you're saying, that's another piece to the dressing room that I think everybody embodies. So, again, we'll see what happens Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping he's on PP1. we could then segue into, it's been a rough year for the Pickle. And, it's just another thing to point out to everybody that it's a frigging rough league. And the Pickle came onto the scene and looked really good last year. Now people are looking at film. They're looking at tendencies and they're telling their players, do this, do this. And also he's in like a six different system. The guy's been told a different way he should be playing every other month. That's not easy either. So, for me, Pickle gets a pass just because I'm done harping on people. We need to move forward. As somebody once stated, we all need to be pulling on the same rope the same way. And hopefully we'll start to do that this year, at the end of this year.
Is that a segue for me? Oh yeah. So I'm with you to a point, because I've been feeling good about this team. I've been feeling good about the prospects. I've been feeling good about the things that we had the trade deadline, or that we did at the trade deadline. I love Spencer Knight. I was feeling good. And then I woke up this morning and my stupid captain opened his stupid mouth after being back off of injured reserve, telling us that everything's different now because we got rid of some distractions. What are the distractions? They must be still there because your poor gameplay is still a problem, Foligno. Obviously, the distractions are still there because you're still playing like shit. Maybe you should focus on your own game. Plenty enough there to keep you busy.
And you see how Hockey Princess, whenever she can quote Miracle, she quotes Miracle. As I said, I basically came out and said I've put away my self-defender cape, this and that, but it seems like everybody else still want to talk about it. How well the Hawks have done, and that's all because Seth Jones is gone. It's not because Seth Jones is gone.
It's because we have a functional goaltender.
It's because, number one, your goaltenders have played out of their ass. And that hasn't changed. This team doesn't win unless they get a 1 AAA game from somebody. If not, they lose. Because they're still giving up 2-1 in shot attempts. Not shots on goal, but shot attempts. I think even last night it was like 20-7 after the first period. That's just the way it is. For me, I'm done with the captain doing it and everything else. I thought we were past this. I thought we were done with the excuses. So here's more excuses of why we played for shit all year. I'm not buying that. Time for everybody to move on and take accountability for their own play. That means you, Flo, who had an unbelievably pass in the Utah game to give up a goal. Come on. It's over. It's done. Does the team seem to be gelling a little bit more? Yes. We have a little bit more of the younger kids there. Is it better? Come on. There's still no structure there. It's a little bit more exciting, which, hey, I'm for. I've got to sit there every night. I want it to be more exciting. As I said at the beginning of the year, from a selfish standpoint, I'd much rather have all the kids there and get the shit kicked out of them because at least they'll be exciting to me. Okay? Foligno doesn't need to go out and say that. Again, I will also state Seth Jones is still undefeated. Okay? He still hasn't lost a game since he left Chicago.
Mic drop.
We will gauge that more what we see from Seth in the playoffs.
And maybe it's just me being spoiled that I grew up with a great captain. But he just seems to just point every other finger to everything else in the room but himself. So not only are you playing bad, because We talked about this a little bit when Krusty made the comparison of he might be the worst captain ever, and we had to sit through Adrian a coin, which that was just bad playing. So not only is Foligno's game bad, but now he's running his mouth and just loves to throw out excuses. The man does not deserve the C. Take it off the jersey and give it to number 8 with an extension, Kyle. You coward.
Yeah, well, that won't happen either. But listen, I'm not going to go nuts on him. Yes.
No, I will. I'll keep going. I've been doing this since October.
You were incredibly spoiled. There's not many leaders like Jonathan Toews. As I said, he was able to take a group of men and get more, and that was basically just because everybody saw what he delivered and weren't going to deliver less. As we've talked about on this program before, when everybody all of a sudden was in love with Kyle Richardson his first year, the one thing that everybody forgot is 19 was there all year. Okay, you still had a whole team that wasn't going to lay down and mail it in because they got to look that guy in the eye and say, I'm dogging it. Now, from Foligno's standpoint, he's my captain on this team that everybody has looked him in this eye and said, I'm dogging it. What are you going to do? And again, he's in a terrible position. You know, you're here only for a couple of years. You're not the future. So it's all mucky to begin with. In the Kyle plan, this was the shit we had to go through. Hey, I'm on board. I've come out on my little message board saying I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid for the rest of the year and try to say, hey, things are going to get better next year with this young group. Okay, I get to watch Colton Dock. I'll be able to watch Arty. Nazar is going to start to score even when it's not a breakaway. Maybe someday.
And, at some point, they're going to bring the most entertaining guy in Rockford up, and it gets even more entertaining.
Right, but
Which, when is that going to happen? I thought it would happen with the trade deadline, guys. Come on. Craig Smith goes out for a reason. Bring up the other winger.
But for me, from the captain on down, this is it. I've dealt with 3 years of excuses. And they're constant from every other aspect. Seth Jones is gone. Okay? All of your excuses are now gone. So, number one, if you don't deliver a win Thursday, that means you're the worst team in the league. Okay? It's time to start taking a little pride in all of this. And I don't know how much you're getting that from your veteran core. Hopefully the kids are starting to understand that. I don't think semantics the right word, but judging by the way somebody plays, their attitude, this or that, comes across X, Y, or Z. But Spencer Knight seems to have that I will fight for you kind of thing.
Spencer Knight gives a shit.
That he exudes.
Yeah.
So again, I didn't make a huge bit out of it, Kyle. My mistake. I think that was an unbelievable get for Seth Jones. Good work. I like everything about that kid, but they need a lot more of that kind of thing. But I'm done with the excuses. I'm done XYZ. You're all now 20-something. It's time to start playing. It's time to be accountable for all of your games. I understand you don't have coaches that coach you. You've got no system. I get all that. But come next year, you're going to have one. And the excuses need to end at the beginning of next year. That needs to be the mantra. No more excuses. Do it for Krusty, as I like to say.
Do it for Krusty. Krusty, got any other thoughts about the other games from this weekend?
It was good. What? We took 2 points from Utah. We took Nashville to overtime again. We had leads in both and couldn't hold them. We're not a very structured team. But hey, is what I plan to do, I suggest everybody does, is let's enjoy the kids for this last, 5 weeks and see where this leads. The Colorado game was good. They played them kind of tough. Again, they weren't in it. You never really thought they were going to score, but they had some good opportunities. Their goaltender stole one too. I mean, he was out of his mind. So I don't think I have much more. I mean, let's face the facts. Nashville's one of the worst teams in the league, and you couldn't beat them. So trust me, there's a ton of work. It's not all of a sudden Seth Jones is gone and now we're on easy street. But EDM's taking up minutes for him. So hey, better days are coming.
Better days are coming because at some point it'll be late April and I don't have to look at Nick Foligno for a couple of months.
Yes, you will not, but he'll be there next year, and then we'll see if he can be traded.
I just want to break from his face.
And the Dick came back last night too, and then played wing, which
first game let him.
Well, they have to figure out something. I will tell your listeners this: there's been a lot of talk about Connor Bedard's face-off percentage, which is going up. And yes, it's going up because they're sheltering him. Okay. The reason why Nazar was on his line is so Nazar could take all the draws for Connor on his weak side. The Dick was brought in on his wing so he could take all the draws on his weak side. His percentage is slanted because of he's being sheltered, which is fine. He's a young kid. Okay, but don't think, oh my God, well, not really. He's winning 50% of the draws on his strong side, and he's not taking anything on the weak side. So, but he'll get that too. Last night they had to give him somebody defensively sound. They've made up their mind that one of the things they're attempting to do this year is work on Connor's 200-foot game by saying, okay, you go take the best player. I don't know if I'm good on that, but it can't hurt. Nothing can hurt right now, right? I mean, we're unstructured. So he might as well see what this is all like. And then we'll give him more structure and hopefully a checking line to go against other people's top lines. And we're going to be coached next year.
We are. Have Todd Nelson.
I don't care if crusty old guy's behind the bench. He's going to be better than what they have now.
Guys, let's start it. Crusty old guy's our new head coach.
Crusty old guy don't know shit about hockey. So I'm going to tell you right now. The only thing is I don't think I could do any worse than that other guy. So.
All right. Crusty, you got anything else for this week?
I don't think so. I think that's about it. It's a little cold out here. I'm waiting for the rest of the warm weather to get here.
That's fair. All right, then. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. If you're going to a game this week, next season, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The bathroom will still be there. The bad food will still be there. And the beer will still be there. If you're wanting good food before a hockey game, highly recommend Su Taqueria El Rey del Taco over on Ogden, just a couple of blocks away. The food is great. Everyone's lovely. You can say hi to crusty old guy and roast him a bit. I bet he would love it.
Oh, he would love that. And remember, tell your friends, we need viewership up. I'm getting rumors that I'm going to be fired, if I don't get if we don't get some more people watching us. So I don't know what Hockey Princess has in store for me.
Tell your friends, tell whoever you know, tell your enemies. That is all, and we will talk at you guys next week.